This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
OPEC Plus agreed on Sunday to raise its oil output quotas by 206,000 barrels per day for May, a modest rise that will largely exist on paper as its key members are unable to raise production due to the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. The war has effectively shut the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important oil route, since the end of February and cut exports from OPEC Plus members Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait and Iraq, the only countries in the group which were able to significantly raise production even before the conflict began. Crude prices have surged to a four-year high close to $120 a barrel, translating into soaring prices for transport fuels which are pressuring consumers and businesses across the globe, and triggering government action to conserve supplies.
Oil prices were little changed in choppy trade on Monday, as investors awaited clarity on the status of talks between the US and Iran even as they remained wary about sustained supply losses due to shipping disruptions. Brent crude futures rose 73 cents, or 0.7%, to $109.76 a barrel at 0338 GMT. US West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude futures were trading 26 cents lower, or 0.2%, at $111.28 per barrel. The pricing moves in Asia trading on Monday were dwarfed by an 11% surge for WTI and an 8% rise for Brent during the previous trading session on Thursday, the biggest absolute price increase since 2020.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
5 European Union countries are calling for a windfall tax on energy companies' profits in reaction to rising fuel prices due to the Iran war, according to a letter from finance ministers to the EU Commission seen by Reuters on Saturday. The finance ministers of Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal and Austria made the joint call for an EU-wide tax in a letter dated Friday. Such a measure could help fund relief for consumers in the face of high energy prices and be a signal that we stand united and are able to take action, they said. It would make it possible to finance temporary relief, especially for consumers, and curb rising inflation, without placing additional burdens on public budgets, the ministers wrote.
Saudi Arabia has set the official selling price of May Arab light crude oil to Asia at a record premium of $19.50 a barrel above the Oman, Dubai average, an increase of $17 from the previous month, a pricing document reviewed by Reuters showed on Monday. The sharp jump comes at a time when Middle East oil has become the world's most expensive as the U.S.-Israel war on Iran limited shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a key choke point for a fifth of the world's oil supplies. It remains unclear when a ceasefire will be reached or when oil exports from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar and Bahrain can resume through the strait. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Gold prices fell on Monday, pressured by a stronger dollar as elevated oil prices on the back of a protracted Iran war and stronger than expected U.S. jobs data dampened hopes for interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. Spot gold slipped 0.5% to $4,652.89 per ounce by 0452 GMT, while U.S. gold futures for April delivery held steady at $4,678.70 in thin trade, with many markets in Asia and Europe closed for a holiday. Data on Friday showed that U.S. non-farm payrolls increased by 178,000 jobs in March, the most since December 2024. While the unemployment rate fell to 4.3%. The 10-year U.S. Treasury yield and the dollar index gained, pressuring greenback-priced bullion.
Emirates Global Aluminium said fully restoring primary aluminium production at its Al Tawila smelter in the UAE that was hit by an Iranian attack late last month could take up to a year. The facilities at Al Tawila were fully evacuated and entered an emergency shutdown after the March 28 attacks on the Khalifa Economic Zone in Abu Dhabi, the company said in a statement. To resume operations at the smelter, EGA must repair infrastructure damage and progressively restore each of the reduction cells, EGA said.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Thailand's Commerce Ministry said on Monday that it will tighten crude palm oil exports and control bottled palm oil prices starting from April 7, with biodiesel demand rising because of soaring global fuel prices driven by the Middle East conflict. These measures, including the maintenance of energy reserves, will not impact farmers, who will continue to be protected by the government, the ministry said. Thailand, the world's third-largest palm oil producer, is projected to produce 21.87 million tons of palm oil fresh fruit bunches and 3.94 million tons of crude palm oil in 2026, according to the Office of Agricultural Economics.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.